TechCrunch just dropped this article about humanoids, and it has quite a lot of things to say that are of value. That's why I'm reporting on it. Of course, from time to time, I might also disagree with it, just maybe. So the headline, the title is that industries may be ready for humanoid robots, but are the robots ready for them? Right away, you can imagine that I would be saying, what I've been saying all along is that industry is ready for the robots, and a lot of people have questioned that statement. So that is what caught my eye right away. And of course, I can't say for sure that the robots are ready yet, but it sure sounds like they are. We'll just take a little bit of a deeper dig here. This article was written by Brian Heater. All right, so let's go here. Notably absent at the annual Association for Advanced Automation, the A3 show, was an agility booth. You know who Agility is, they're one of the robot makers. The Oregon company made a big showing at last year's event with a small army of digits, their name, their brand for their robots, moving bins from a tote wall to a conveyor belt with just a few feet away. It wasn't a complex demo, but the mere sight of those bipedal robots working in tandem was still a showstopper. Agility Chief Product Officer Melanie Wise, who we've seen on a few other channels, I guess I should probably get her on this channel, told not me, but told the writer that the company had opted to sit this one out as it currently has all the orders it can manage. That's what I like to hear. And that's really what these trade shows are all about. Manufacturers and logistics companies shopping around for the next technology leg up on their competition so they can remain competitive. Well, how large a role humanoids will play in that ecosystem is perhaps the biggest question on everyone's mind at the moment. Well, I don't know about everyone's mind, but certainly people in the manufacturing space, in warehouse distribution, even retailers, people that deal with senior care. I mean, there's so many different industries right now that I'm sure are paying close attention. Amid the biggest robotics hype cycle I've witnessed firsthand, many are left scratching their heads. After all, the notion of a general purpose humanoid robot flies in the face of decades worth of orthodoxy. The notion of everything robot has been a fiction. Hello. That has been a fixture of science fiction for the better part of the century, but the reality has been one of single purpose systems designed to do the job well. So that's my experience. Of course, as a manufacturer, we did have many automation devices, and they were all single purpose systems designed to do the job well. And that's, of course, just about everything you can buy out there right now. Well, the article goes on to say, while there wasn't much of a physical presence, the subject of humanoids loomed large at the event. As such, A3 asked me to moderate a panel on the subject. I admittedly balked at the idea of an hour-long panel. After all, the ones we do at Disrupt tend to run about 20 to 25 minutes. By the way, you probably would be shocked to know that I have done hundreds, yes, I think close to 100, I would say, close to 100 just me talking at various trade shows, and I can't clear my throat in an hour. Generally my talks run about an hour. Okay, but a half an hour? No. So it was clear we could have easily filled another hour, though. Now he says this was due in partly due to the fact that he had Wise on the panel, but also Boston Dynamics CTO Aaron Saunders, Apptroniks CEO Jeff Cardenas, and Neuro CEO David Rager, all on the panel. So they kicked off the panel by asking the audience how many in the attendance would consider themselves skeptical about the humanoid form factor. And roughly 3/4 of the people present raised their hand, which is more or less what he anticipated. Yeah, you got to ask the question in a completely different way. If I had one question to ask that audience, it wouldn't have been, are they skeptical? It would have been, would you be interested in buying one if it was $60,000 a year? Or maybe my question would be, do you think that there will be humanoid robots, available for sale for your factory or your distribution center by the end of 2025 or 2026, or put a number on it or ask a multiple choice question. So it's a rather bizarre question, in my opinion. Investors are less measured in their optimism. Investors are not measured in their optimism at all, as you well know. But anyway, this is Randy Kirk, by the way. I haven't said that yet. You want to like and subscribe and hit notify. There will be yet one more program today. It will be my normal Saturday afternoon where I talk about all the Tesla news. Separate from this was too big of a story to include in that regular broadcast. That's why I'm bringing it to you first. And then there'll be another one probably out about 5 o'clock, something like that, California time, where we'll do all of the regular news. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to do a very special show. I'm going to give you an update on my 2024, 2025, and 2026 thinking with regard to how Tesla's basic core businesses will do in those 3 years in terms of their profits, in terms of the stock price. So stay tuned for that. That'll be out on Sunday morning, and then Sunday afternoon. Of course, you know the drill. Sunday night, we do the Monday morning show where we talk about all the stuff coming up next week, which includes the Labor Department reports. Okay. Oh, yes. Also, thank you very much. We had another paid member joining Patreon. That would be Alaji H. Thank you, Alaji H, for joining my Patreon. I could use about about perfect would be about 100 more members. That 100 more paying members. There's 3 price points, 3, 5, and 10. So you can imagine that maybe the average would be 5. If I had 100 more members at $5 a month, that would pretty much make this program not necessarily 100% up to what I think I'm worth, but I have a high number in mind in terms of what I'm worth. But it would, let's say, just make it a lot closer to what I think it should be. All right. So the article goes on to say, a year after we laid our initial expectations for a global humanoid robot, the total addressable market for this is by the way, he's quoting somebody else here. They had originally thought that the total addressable market would be $6 billion in 2035. They changed their forecast now to 38 billion. So in 1 year, this individual, okay, it's Goldman Sachs is the company. I'm trying to find, it'll say the name here in a minute. Oh, Jacqueline Du. Jacqueline Du. So she is apparently their specialist in robotics. She's had a year, in 1 year, she went from 6 billion to 38 billion, a 4-fold increase. Resulting from a 4-fold increase in our shipments estimate to 1.4 million units, with a much faster path to profitability, seeing a 40% reduction in the bill of material, she said. We believe our revised shipment estimates would cover 10 to 15% of hazardous, dangerous, and auto manufacturing roles. 1.5 million. What was it? I think she said 1.5 million. I got to find it here. Anyway, 1.4 million. So 1.4 million of these in 2035. Of course, I think there'll be 1.4 million of them in 2026, maybe 2027. 2027 probably. And she thinks that'll be $38 billion worth. That's a good number. I think Tesla alone will be doing $38 billion in 2027. But there you go. A big difference between she and I. There are, however, plenty of reasons to be skeptical. Of course there are. There's always skepticism. And obviously, until we see them actually doing work in a factory on a regular basis, 24/7, it's not a deal, all right? Hype cycles are hard to navigate when you're in the middle of them. The amount of money currently changing hands, figure most recently raised $670 million, as we know, gives one pause in the wake of various startup collapses across other fields. It also comes during a time when robotics investments have slowed after a few white-hot years. I don't think there's any slowdown in the actual humanoid robotics space. I think the 675 million is only a drop in the bucket of what is actually being currently invested by the 28 identified firms in the United States, in Canada, in China, at South Korea, in Japan, which have been identified. One of the biggest risks at this stage is overpromising. Every piece of new technology runs the risk, but something like a humanoid robot is a lightning rod for this stuff, much like how vertical takeoff and lift proponents, VTOL proponents, see the technology is finally delivering on the promise of flying cars and even electric flying cars being within reach. And of course, we know that there's one of those that is, well, you know, so I'm not going to be able to pull it up here. The fact that these robots look like us leads many to believe they can or soon will be able to do the same thing as us. Elon Musk's promise of a robot that works in the Tesla factory all day and then comes home to make you dinner is something that's fueling the fire. Tempering expectation isn't really a Musk thing, you know. Yes, but Elon's not kidding. Otherwise, meanwhile, others meanwhile have tossed around the notion of a general intelligence for humanoid robots. Well, so has Elon, a thing that is ways off, 5 to 10 years in a time frame I often hear bandied about. Boy, if we have general intelligence in 5 to 10 years, it will be an absolute something of amazement. However, Elon Musk thinks it will be next year. And there's hardly anybody on the planet who would have a better insight into when AGI is likely to make itself known. Of course, as everybody points out, you have to decide how to define AGI in order to know that. So now, and then applying AGI to a humanoid robot is yet another thing. But in fact, the methods that Elon is using with video in, action out are probably the most likely. And then if you add large language model on top of that, which we believe he is, that's certainly maybe everybody that I've listened to, read, or talked to thinks that that is the fastest way to AGI. The article goes on. I think we need to be careful about the hype cycles because we ultimately need to deliver the promise and the potential, Cardenas said. We've been through this before with the DARPA Robotics Challenge, where there's a lot of excitement going into it, and then we crashed into reality coming out of it. Well, one source of the disconnect is the question of what these systems can deliver today. The answer is murky, partly because of the nature of partnership announcements. Agility announced it is working with Amazon. Apptroniks said they're working with Mercedes. Figure is working with BMW, and Sanctuary AI with Magna. But every partnership so far is to be taken for what it is, a pilot. Of course, Tesla working with themselves. The precise number of robots deployed in any specific partnership is never disclosed. And the figure is often in single digits, should say, and the figure is often assumed to be single digits since it hasn't been disclosed. It doesn't say assumed to be. But it makes perfect sense. These are all operating factories, warehouses, and it would be wildly disruptive to just slot in a new technology at scale and hope for the best. Well, I guess I could agree with that, but if it's working, if the lab is showing that the product is working extremely well, then some of the jobs that we've seen and that I know take place in factories, you could pretty much just drop them in and pretty fast. Pilots are important for this reason, but they should not be mistaken for market fit. As of this writing, Agility is the only one of the bunch that is confirmed with TechCrunch that it is ready for the next step. Well, I don't know about talking to TechCrunch, but Elon Musk has said they will have a working, sellable, ready for shipping product by the end of 2025. In fact, maybe even the second half of 2025. On the discussion panel, Wise confirmed that Agility will be announcing specifics in June. Cardenas, meanwhile, stated that the company plans to heavily pilot in the back half of 2024 with plans to move beyond early next year. Those sound pretty concrete. Neuro and Boston Dynamics are simply too early stage for the conversation. Neuro promises to show off some demos at some point in July, moving 4NE-1 beyond what has up till now been a series of rendered videos, coupled with the non-functioning units shown at Automate. As for what we will see more of, let me start over on that one. As for when we will see more of Electric Atlas, beyond the 30-second video, Saunders says the video is just meant to be an early peek. We're planning on getting into the pilot and some of the more pragmatic pieces next year. So pilots and pragmatic. So far, we focused mainly on building up the focus on technology. There are a lot of hard problems left to solve in the manipulation and the AI spaces. Our team is working on it right now, and I think as these features get more robust, we'll have more to show off. Boston Dynamics isn't starting from scratch, of course. After more than a decade of Atlas, the company has as much humanoid experience as any. While the launches of Spot and Stretch have taught the firm plenty about commercializing products after decades of research. So why did it take so long to see the company swing to the commercial humanoid category? We wanted to make sure that we understood where the value is placed, Saunders said. It's really easy to make demo videos and show cool things, but it takes a long time to find ROI, a return on investment case that justify the human form. Okay, I know he's the expert and I'm not, but I don't know if everybody's suggesting that these can be built, not everybody, but many are suggesting. Some are already offering products for sale in the 60,000 to less than 100,000 range. Other people are talking about the bill of materials on a very sophisticated robot being under 20 grand, including Elon, talking about it costing about the same as a car, or I mean, less than a car. Yeah, I can make the case right now. I don't know what he's talking about. Neuro has easily the most diverse portfolio of the companies present on stage. In fact, one gets the sense that whenever the company is finally ready to launch a humanoid in earnest, it will be just another form factor in the company's portfolio rather than the driving force. Meanwhile, when the electric Atlas eventually launches, it will be Boston Dynamics' third commercially available product. As Digit is Agility's only offering at the moment, the company is wholly committed to the bipedal humanoid form factor. For its part, Apptroniks splits the difference. The Austin-based firm has been taking a best tool for the job approach to the form factor. If, for example, legs aren't needed for a specific environment, then the company can mount the upper half of its robot onto a wheeled base. I think at the end of the day, it's about solving problems, Cardenas said. There are places where you don't need a bipedal robot. My view is that the bipedal form factor will win the day, but the question is, how do you actually get them out there? Now, I agree with Cardenas in one regard. You don't always need the legs, and sometimes you only need one arm. And that's obvious. You got lots of robots out there with one arm or no arms. But the beauty of the bipedal, the beauty of having the legs, is the multiplicity of uses. This is the key. This is the key. Maybe he's missing, maybe he's not. But the idea is you use it right here for 3 hours, and then that job is done. You can take it over here and use it for something else for the next 3 hours. Or as Elon apparently has said, although I'm not sure that I've heard him say it, or it comes home with you and mows the lawn. Not every terrain requires legs. Earlier this week, Diligent Robotics co-founder and CEO Andrea Thomas told me that part of the reason her company targeted healthcare first is the prevalence of ADA, Americans with Disability Act, compliant structures. Anywhere a wheelchair can go, a wheeled robot should be able to follow. Because of that, the startup didn't have to commit to the very difficult problem of building legs. Legs have benefits beyond the ability to handle things like stairs. However, reach is an important one. Legged robots have an easier time reaching lower shelves as they can bend on the legs and waist. You could theoretically add a very large arm to the top of the MR, but doing so introduces all kinds of new problems with balance, for instance. Safety is something that has thus far been underaddressed in conversations around the form factor. By whom? Who hasn't been talking about fat? Does he pay any attention to the videos that we put out here and all of our friends on YouTube? They're putting out dozens, maybe, I'm sure way into the hundreds of videos so far on humanoid robots. We talk about safety all the time. One of the humanoid robots' key selling points is their ability to slide into existing workflows alongside other robotic or human coworkers. But robots are these big, heavy, made of metal products, therefore making them a potential hazard to human workers. Yes, this is clear. Elon Musk from the very first day said, we're going to make ours 120 pounds and we're going to limit it to 3.5 miles, I think, per hour. Maybe it was 5 miles per hour. Anyway, the subject has been top of mind for WISE in particular, who says further standards are needed to ensure that these robots can operate safely alongside people. There are so many standards on how This is, there are standards upon standards upon standards about what you could do in the workplace. And if the government doesn't have a standard on it, believe me, your insurance company has a standard on it. I can't tell you how many times the local government was not my biggest problem in terms of what I could do in my factory, but my insurance company a couple of times almost broke the bank, almost broke my ability to solve issues that they felt I needed to do, that local government, regional government, federal government, they didn't care. Well, he says it's very hard to distinguish what is and isn't progress. Actually, Wise said that, referring to some recent videos of Tesla's Optimus robot. I think one thing we see as a community can do better, he says one thing we can do better is to become more transparent about the methodologies that we're using. It's fueling more power for the hype cycle. I think the other problem is that if we look at what's going on with any humanoid robot in this space, safety is not clear. Well, I'm going to discount Wise from now on because he's not that wise. There isn't an e-stop on Optimus. There isn't an e-stop on many of our robots. Well, you don't know that. They're not yet ready for sale. I believe the concept of having a stop button on the back of Optimus has been discussed, certainly by many in the community. I don't know whether Elon has ever mentioned that there would be one. It is not that hard to stop a robot from moving when you don't want it to move. It could be remote, it could be on the equipment, it could be on the robot itself. There's a lot of ways that this can be handled. I'm confident that this is not going to be the issue of the day. All right, so let me know what you thought of the article. Let me know what you thought of the video. Please like, subscribe, and hit notify. Also join Patreon. Right now is a perfect time. Just go down there to the information below and you can get the link. Boom, hit the link, get over to Patreon and sign up. That would be fantastic. And again, later on today, we'll be back with you with the regular Saturday news. And then on Sunday morning, a very special show where we talk about what does the profit picture look like for the foundational products, just the products we've already got, no robots, just the products that are already being made. What do I see in terms of automobiles, cyber trucks, semi-trucks, energy devices, services, and other? What are we looking for? What do we think the profit's going to be on those things in 2024, 2025, and 2026? That'll be on tomorrow morning. All right, that's all for now. It has been great talking to you.